Welcome to Grow Pakistan. Today we have Mr. Taimur Malik with us, who is a regenerative agriculture expert. And we are in conversation with him to find out how regenerative agriculture and cooperation amongst farmers can benefit the country at large. So, Mr. Malik, can you tell us more about regenerative agriculture and the possibilities that exist for transforming the agricultural landscape globally, but specifically in Pakistan?
In the Pakistani context, absolutely, I'd be thrilled to do so. So, regenerative agriculture is a system of agriculture where we seek to work with ecology and biology. And in fact, we take a biology and an ecology first approach to getting the outcomes we want. And what are the outcomes that a farmer wants, right? The farmer wants like higher, really good yields, good quality, and also freedom as much as possible from diseases and pests, right? These are the principal...
And a low cost of production.
And a low cost of production, right? And a balance sheet that works, right? That's the thing that matters the most, that he's earning a good return on his investment, he or she, right? Regen Ag really helps with that. What has happened since the Industrial Revolution, and in particular after the Second World War, is that we've taken an extremely reductive chemistry-first approach towards agriculture. And what that's done is it's denuded soils, it's dramatically harmed the natural world and the natural environment. It has consumed far too much water. It has led to about what's called the insect Armageddon, where we've lost about 3/4 of the insect population on this planet.
And Are you serious? 3/4?
Yes, and bird populations. It's a cascade, right?
Also the effects on humans, right? Like look at the prevalence of cancer and diseases that didn't exist 100 years ago.
Yes, exactly. Because of exposures to very toxic chemicals such as, toxic herbicides, pesticides, pesticide residues. So these are very dangerous and grim realities. However, the good news is that regenerative agriculture provides us with a lot of hope, because it gives us a system that can take us away from all of these negatives, right? We can actually have higher yields, we can rebuild soils, we can make soils into literal miniature dams, because for every 1% organic matter you build in soil, you have a storage capacity for water of 25,000 to 30,000 gallons. And that's actually massive. I'll give you an example. In 2022, when we had these devastating floods in Sindh in Pakistan, a few months later, you had some pretty nasty flooding in California, which is the breadbasket state of the United States of America. And there's some incredible aerial footage of, there's a particular part of California where they grow a very high value crop called almonds, right?
Yeah.
And what had happened was that entire area got flooded, and farmers, were devastated. Their entire almond crops that year were destroyed. But there were a few holdouts, some regenerative farmers, where all of their neighbors were flooded, but their farmland, their orchards are not flooded at all. And the reason was because they were doing a series of regenerative practices for the past few years that had built up soils, and the soils had become sponge.
So they would absorb
all that water, and they had no problems at all.
There's this film called The Greatest Little Farm.
Yes, it's a fantastic film.
Yeah. So again, California regen practices.
Yes.
So it just gives you so much hope that an alternate possibility exists.
Yes.
And if we can utilize it in a way that benefits the majority of the population, yes, the farmer, but then the consumer, with good products and clean, healthy products at achievable prices that are not exorbitant, I think a possibility exists where we don't have to suffer these health consequences, and the insects and the birds don't have to die, right?
Exactly.
And we save out onto the water as well. So how do you think this can be achieved? Because again, this is a new concept. Not many people are talking about it. Now people have begun to show interest, but how do we sort of promote this, and what will it take to defeat the behemoth that is the industrial agricultural sector, input-based sector that's really just, sitting on the top and looking at this whole thing?
Exactly. I think that we need a bit of a whole of society approach for this. We need the role of government, we need non-profits, we even need the private sector, right? So if you are a purchaser of agricultural produce, let's say you buy chilies because you are making condiments, right? Or tomatoes because you're making ketchup or something, right? All purchases, or you buy potatoes because you're doing some kind of value addition there. All of these purchases, or you're buying maize, you're a Rafan, whatever, all of them can have enormous impact in going to their farmers, teaching them techniques, helping them, even maybe offering them a slight premium, so creating the incentive structure that allows them to change, working with non-profits that can be the boots on the ground, and with government extension departments. And again, the government has an enormous role. The government really needs to realize that if we are to ensure food security in this growing country, while also mitigating the impacts of climate change, creating higher resilience from climatic shocks, which we keep on getting. This year was devastating for farmers growing sesame and rice in the Punjab because we had this heat wave problem. All of these things require the government to actually help farmers make this transition. This is a knowledge-based paradigm, right? Of course, there are some inputs that are regenerative inputs that farmers can purchase, but they can also make, right? And so this knowledge needs to be transferred. How do you do things differently? How do you create the right systems? How do you create vermicompost and compost on farm, or other biological amendments like a biostimulant from moringa, right? Which I can tell you examples from Pakistan where farmers who've made an extract from moringa leaves, and then they've treated their seed, and they've gotten an 8 to 10 mond higher yield in their wheat crop, which is very, very significant, right? So all of these things, they build resilience, they can mitigate climatic shocks, again with moringa leaf extracts. So a good quality biostimulant can help you fight a heat wave or a frost attack, things like that, right? So similarly, aloe vera, it's another miracle plant which you can create an aloe leaf extract, which again you deploy in your soils, can give you really good results, better germination, healthier plants. So it's a world unto itself, but it's something that can easily be passed on, but you need the actors to do it.
Okay, perfect. That was really informative. And you've mentioned that we need a whole of society approach. I feel like before that, we might also need a national catharsis to process everything that we've been through, because I feel like as a country, Pakistan's been through so much in the last 30, 40 years. We have collective amnesia. An event happens, we forget very quickly, and then something happens again that's related to it, and then we're reminded that yes, this has happened before. So when we are in a situation where collective amnesia is a thing, we feel as though we need a national catharsis. How can we have a whole of society approach when all members of society or all the stakeholders cannot or refuse to come on one page, right? How is that a possibility? Because we know that this needs to be done, but how will it be done is the question.
Right, that isn't that the question? I think that I think people can play a big role in this. I think people maybe should eschew partisanship, and really the thing that they should be coming out in the streets for is asking the various power and stakeholders in this country to come together for a grand bargain. And people need to be aware about what they need to ask, right? There are things we do in our budgets that are just absurd, such as and many people much wiser than myself have pointed this out, like we have something called the PSDP, the Public Sector Development Fund, which is used in some of the most bizarre...
So like MPs and MNAs get money,
exactly,
and then they use the money as they see
for a
fit.
patronage economy, right? This doesn't make sense, because if they were to use that money wisely, the party in power would actually win more votes in the next election, because it's a lot of money.
But it gets siphoned off, right? Yeah, so it's like a lot of corruption involved, embezzlement.
Yes. So people need to come to the streets, not in a negative kind of way, but asking for positive outcomes, not in a partisan kind of way. And I think that's potentially could push the needle, right?
Well, thank you so much for your time, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We had a really insightful conversation with Mr. Taimur Malik around regenerative agriculture. Stay with us and tune in next week to find out more about all things agriculture.